Researchers also classify conflicts according to the type of disagreement, the content of the disagreement, what it is about. There are three main categories: task, relationship, and process conflict. Task conflict relates to the content of the work and the goals of the work. So disagreements about the steps that we should take to complete a project would be considered task conflict. Relationship conflict focuses on interpersonal relationships. When two people don't get along with one another, this is a relationship conflict. Process conflict is about how the work gets done, how tasks are delegated, how roles are assigned. Disagreements about how the group's work will be evaluated, for instance, would be considered a process conflict. The group may disagree about who is in charge, who is going to do the evaluation, and on what criteria the group will be evaluated. Today's researchers tend to agree that relationship conflict is usually dysfunctional. Rarely does a relationship conflict result in positive outcomes. This is why it's so important that we try to address relationship conflicts as soon as they surface. They don't tend to go away on their own, and they can lead to more conflict of other types. They can decrease the amount of understanding between people. As you can imagine, if you don't like someone or you don't get along with them, you probably won't try to understand their perspective. Plus, this type of conflict can be psychologically exhausting. If you've ever been in a relationship conflict at school or at work, you know what that's like to constantly experience that tension. While they agree that relationship conflict usually is dysfunctional, they are less likely to agree about whether task and process conflict are functional. For instance, some studies have found that low to moderate levels of task conflict actually stimulate the discussion of ideas, but only when all of the group members share the same goals and trust one another. Without shared goals and trust, any level of task or process conflict can probably be detrimental to the group's performance. Still, other studies cannot replicate a relationship between task conflict and group performance. One meta-analysis of 116 studies found that task conflict was unrelated to group performance. So it appears that we're still unclear about when these types of conflict are functional and when they are dysfunctional.